Do you remember the last time you consciously played the game? The specific, almost clinical memory of that convenient smile you offered in response to a mediocre joke, the feeling of your facial muscles obeying an order that didn't come from your joy, but from a strategy of social cohesion. Do you remember that approving nod, performed in the face of an opinion that violated not only your values, but your very intelligence? Your body was present, a compliant participant in the social theater, but your consciousness had retreated. It was watching the scene from a distance, with the cold curiosity of an anthropologist analyzing a tribal ritual whose logic escapes them. In that moment of dissonance, you felt a sense of betrayal, didn't you? A subtle and profound betrayal. Not from others towards you, but from you towards your own potential, for having once again sacrificed your clarity on the altar of harmony. I'm going to tell you a truth that hurts. One of those truths that, once spoken, can never be unheard. This mental fatigue, this cognitive overload that overwhelms you after the slightest social interaction, this exhaustion that leaves you drained and craving silence, is not a symptom of your weakness or some psychological defect. It is irrefutable proof of your lucidity. It's the background noise of your mind working overtime to decode, analyze, and resist the ambient incoherence. You might think you're becoming antisocial, unfit for the social contract, or simply depressed. The reality is more demanding, and paradoxically, more powerful. You are simply becoming coherent in a world that glorifies performance, rewards superficiality, and fears true depth. This feeling of no longer fitting into the frameworks that once felt natural, this internal fracture that exposes and widens with contact with others, is not your breakdown. It is the demand of your conscience manifesting with new force. You have spent years, perhaps decades, playing a role in a play with a script that now seems absurd. You understand the mechanics of the theatre. You see the strings, the cardboard sets, and the forced performance of the actors. The real problem, and this is where the existential vertigo lies, is that the other actors continue to play their roles with unwavering conviction, or at least with a complacency that looks like conviction. They look at you, waiting for your line, the one you've always delivered, the predictable reaction that maintained the fragile balance of the illusion, but you don't know it anymore. Or worse, knowing it repulses you intellectually, and the silence that follows, that agonizing void that you fill with a polite escape or an internal retreat, is not an end in itself. It is the beginning of everything. It is the blank space, the necessary laboratory to finally and strategically become the master of yourself. The great lie of our culture, the silent agreement you were pressured into, is that connection is a numbers game. We were all handed a script, a playbook for social success that taught us a perverse equation. A full calendar equals a full life. A flood of notifications proves your worth, and your network is your net worth. We were taught that being valuable meant being wanted, and that solitude was the penalty for failure. And you, let's be honest with brutal clarity, you mastered that game. You were a social chameleon, an emotional diplomat, able to perfectly mirror any environment to gain approval, validation, and a false sense of peace. But peace bought by self-betrayal isn't peace. It's a ceasefire with the outside world, paid for by a full-blown civil war inside your own mind. This is the trap of being nice. We're conditioned to be agreeable, to be accommodating, to smooth things over. But this version of nice is often a Trojan horse for conformity. It's a strategy to neutralize critical thought. Being nice, in this context, means not asking the hard questions, not challenging the consensus, not exposing the contradictions. It's a form of goodness that serves the status quo, not the truth. The invisible price of this polite conformity has been your own inner compass, the slow erosion of your mental clarity, and the silencing of your intuition. You traded your power for popularity, but you're waking up to the fact that it was a terrible bargain. Now, your awakening, which is really an awakening to your own demand for truth, has thrown you out of the theatre. The standard conversations about politics reduced to talking points, about careers seen as a status competition, about the lives of others consumed as entertainment, now sound like static. It's an unbearable noise interfering with the only signal you want to tune into, the signal of the real. You look at the people around you, and you don't see malice. You see a collective trance. You see people trapped by the performance, so accustomed to their masks, they've forgotten they even have a face. They talk about their next promotion, and you think about the meaning of your life's work. They offer you a drink, and you have a thirst for truth that no distraction can quench. The world of yesterday, which you navigated with adaptive genius, has become a foreign landscape. You try, out of habit, to follow the dance steps, but your mind and body refuse to move to the dissonant music. That mask wasn't just a tool, it was your armor. And without it, you are exposed, vulnerable, under the gaze of a world that didn't love you, but the function you performed. This exhaustion that's saturating your life is a different kind of beast. This isn't the tiredness of the body that sleep can fix. This isn't the emotional fatigue that comfort can soothe. This is an exhaustion of the spirit. It is the soul-crushing burnout of a clear mind forced to operate in a world clouded by mental fog. Every social event has become a strategic drain on your vital energy. Before every meeting, every dinner, you find yourself asking, how much of my inner clarity must I sacrifice tonight to maintain this hollow peace? How much of my actual thoughts must I censor to avoid being labeled the difficult one? You've become a fierce guardian of your own silence and solitude, not out of arrogance, but out of a primal need for psychological survival. The cost of performance has become too high, and the debt you've accumulated is corroding your very soul. Here is the heart of your conflict, the core of the inner war you've been fighting. The deepest loneliness is not born from being alone, but from being in a crowd that doesn't see what you see. It's the loneliness of being the only one in the room who knows you're in the matrix. You watch people go about their programmed lives, and you feel an almost unbearable sense of alienation. You try to share a nuanced idea, and they counter with a black and white certainty. You try to open a door to a deeper conversation, and they quickly shut it with a joke or a change of subject. With every failed attempt at authentic connection, with every blank stare you receive, a part of you retreats. This isn't an emotional wound, it's a strategic conclusion. The territory is hostile to truth, so you learn to encrypt your messages, to speak in code, or more often, to stay silent. You are living through a unique kind of grief. The grief for the time you've lost playing a game you despise. The grief for the potential you suppress to fit in, which feeds your fear of being average or forgotten. You look at friendships that have become hollow routines, relationships held together by nostalgia and mutual convenience. There is no anger, only the cold, hard realization of an unbridgeable distance. It's as if your operating system has been upgraded, and it's no longer compatible with the old software. And the world, blind to your metamorphosis, keeps demanding the old version of you. You're so quiet lately, they say. You seem distant. They cannot know that your silence is an act of rebellion, that your distance is you reclaiming your territory, and that this loneliness, as heavy as it is the price you pay for clarity. The philosophical turn. A thinker like Carl Jung would look at your current state not as a pathology, but as a necessary and heroic stage of psychological development. He wouldn't see a breakdown, but a breakthrough. Jung called the social mask we wear the persona. Think of it as your social avatar, the carefully curated public profile you build for acceptance and success. The persona of the competent professional, the easygoing friend, the responsible family member. It's an essential adaptive tool, but the danger, as Jung brilliantly pointed out, is when you mistake the avatar for your actual self. Your awakening is precisely this moment of glitching, this disidentification from the role you've been playing. The exhaustion you feel is the dead weight of a persona your true self now refuses to carry. It's the rejection of a script that was leading you toward a life of quiet desperation. By letting go of the persona, you have unwillingly opened the door to what lies beneath. This is what Jung called the shadow. It's crucial to resist the simplistic idea that the shadow is your dark side. It is the seat of your raw, untapped power. It is everything you repress to be nice and acceptable. Your healthy aggression, your ambition, your righteous anger, your unapologetic drive for truth. It is your silent strength. It is the dragon guarding the treasure of your authentic self. To integrate the shadow is to reclaim your power. This is what makes other people uncomfortable. They were used to your controlled, predictable avatar. They are destabilized by your wholeness, by the raw energy of a man who is becoming integrated. The path you are now on, this journey that feels so solitary, is the path of Individuation. This is the ultimate hero's journey. It is the process by which a person becomes who they are truly meant to be. This is a conscious act of discipline interior, of integrating the light and the dark within you to become a sovereign individual. It's the modern psychological equivalent of the Stoic ideal, championed by Marcus Aurelius, to build an unconquerable fortress within your own mind. It is not a path to constant happiness. It is the path to meaning, purpose, and self-command. The fatigue, the isolation, the feeling of being out of sync. These are not obstacles on the path. They are the path. They are the signs confirming that you have finally left the well-trodden road of mediocrity and have begun the difficult climb toward your own summit. You are not falling apart. You are being forged. Now listen closely. It's time to shift from analysis to action. What if this emptiness you feel is not a void, but a clearing? A space you have courageously cleared of all the noise and nonsense so you can finally build something real? What if this exhaustion is not a signal to quit, but the sound of your own mind breaking the chains of your social conditioning? For a moment, stop fighting these feelings. Stop judging them as negative. See them as data. Your exhaustion is a highly tuned bullshit detector. Your anxiety is a compass pointing you away from falsehood and toward truth. Your loneliness is the training ground for developing silent strength. You haven't lost your ability to connect. You've lost your tolerance for meaningless connections. The difference is everything, and in that difference lies your power. The solitude you feel is not a social failure. It is a strategic retreat into your inner citadel, as the Stoics would say. It is the universe, or your own deep consciousness, telling you, I need you alone so I can speak to you without the constant interruption of the world's noise. You used to seek validation from external applause. Now, you are learning to be your own source of authority. That mask didn't just fall off, you broke it. With every no you wanted to say, with every time you chose the discomfort of truth over the comfort of a lie, you were hammering at its foundations. These were quiet, powerful acts of war against your own self-betrayal. The real turning point, the moment you reclaim your power, happens now. It happens with a conscious, deliberate choice. You stop mourning the loss of your comfortable illusions, and you start embracing the power of your hard-won clarity. You are not losing friends, you are shedding obsolete connections. You are not isolating yourself, you are fortifying your own mind. The vrai pouvoir est invisible. It doesn't lie in dominating others or fitting in. It lies in the ability to remain yourself, centered and strong in the midst of chaos. It is the power to be unshakable. Your project is no longer to find a place in a broken system. Your project is to become such a powerful center of clarity and purpose that you create your own gravity, drawing to you what is real and repelling what is false. It is time to fully, unapologetically, embody your own power. You have followed this line of thought to its demanding conclusion. If these words have resonated not as a complaint, but as a clear diagnosis of the inner war you are fighting every day, then understand this with absolute certainty. You are not alone. You are, however, on a less traveled path. You have joined the invisible ranks of the clear-eyed, a silent community of sovereign individuals scattered across the globe who have chosen the difficult weight of consciousness over the comfortable slumber of conformity. They are the lighthouse keepers in an ocean of fog, the quiet strategists holding the line for truth in their own lives, the architects of meaning in a world obsessed with noise. Your struggle is not a sign of your isolation, but your initiation into this tribe. So I leave you here at the fork in the road with a final provocative question. A question that should echo in the silence of your mind long after this video ends. What will you do with this clarity, this power that is both your greatest burden and your most formidable asset? Two paths diverge from this point of lucidity. The first is the path of the cynical strategist. You can take your newfound understanding of the system and use it to play the game better than anyone else. You can manipulate the appearances, master the politics, and achieve all the hollow victories the world has to offer. It's a path paved with external rewards, but it leads to an inner desert. It is the ultimate betrayal. To use your own lucidity to build a more sophisticated, more comfortable prison for your soul. Or you can choose the second path, the path of the sovereign individual. This path is paved with costly integrity. It may mean a slower climb, a smaller audience, and disappointing those who preferred your more compliant avatar. It means choosing the discomfort of a difficult truth over the ease of a convenient lie, again and again. But this path leads to a reward the other can never offer, an unshakable core of self-respect. It leads to silent strength, to a peace that is not dependent on external validation, and to the profound power of a life that is built, brick by hard-won brick, on the bedrock of your own truth. It is the only path that leads to true self-command. The power to choose has always been yours, but your awareness of that power, your direct and undeniable contact with it, is new. This awareness is not a suggestion, it is a mandate. It is your principal tool, your weapon, and now, your greatest responsibility. The world does not need another clever player in a meaningless game. It is drowning in them. What it needs, what your own future needs, is for men and women like you to have the courage to stand for something real, to embody an alternative, to prove that a life of purpose and power is not only possible, but is the only life worth living. If you recognize yourself on this path, if you are ready to make that choice, then leave a mark of your passage here. Do it not as a social act seeking likes, but as an anchor for your own resolve. Let this be your first sovereign decree, a public declaration to yourself and a line drawn in the sand. Comment with this simple statement, this act of sovereign creation: I am the author of my own life. By writing this, you are not just making a statement, you are casting a vote for your future self. You are firing the starting gun. You are seizing the pen from the hands of expectation, of society, of your own past, and writing the first sentence of the first chapter of your true story. For those who are waking up, this sentence is not an end. It is the great beginning. The pages ahead are blank. Feel the weight and the glory of that freedom. The only story that has ever truly mattered has just begun. Yours.